Hi, Stephen here from Sound of an Ocean Wave, and this is day 19 of the October daily draw. So as we start the weekend, let's see what message we get. And I'll be taking the first card from the Ghost Tarot, followed by an Oracle card from the Seasons of the Witch, Samhain Oracle. So let's choose our first card and get the reading underway. Okay. We have the Five of Cups, which is about saying goodbye to something, a farewell, a loss, something that's gone in our lives, something that we once had but's no longer there. And that does affect us emotionally, and that's okay. It's a natural response. And, this sense of loss here, saying goodbye. Sometimes we have to let things go. Sometimes we have to let people leave in one form or another. I mean, here I think we have the spirit here, parts of a woman here, parts that he's lost, through bereavement, and the spirit going by boat and going off into the horizon, and he's waving goodbye. And obviously, bereavement, losing actually bereavement is a really strong sense of loss of an individual in your life if you lose someone in that way. And to me, it is it's a special kind of loss, bereavement of a loved one. Um, I'm not going to focus on that because I think it's a different category, or grief over a loved one. Now, I'm not. As I said, I'm not going to focus on it. I mention it. I mention it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with it, and then move to more general sort of loss and letting things go. And the reason I'm starting with it is because there's no right or wrong way about how to grieve over losing a person in your life. There's no time limit. Or because when I go into the more general sense, it doesn't quite apply so strictly to bereavement of a loved one because it's a different type of grief and loss. And people can't say to you, well, now it's time to stop grieving. Now it's time to stop thinking about what you've lost and looking towards the future. We shouldn't be judging another person's bereavement process of grief and working through it. Everybody's different. Everybody's experience is different. There'll be similarities, of course, but it's a specialized area. And if people need help, they go and see a bereavement counselor or somebody that knows. I am certainly not qualified to talk about any kind of advice to do with bereavement. I've had bereavement in my life, of course, but so I can only speak from experiencing about how I felt. But to me, and I've seen other people have a bereavement, and I've reacted in a different way, but that doesn't negate, because there were differences between the way we dealt with our grief. It doesn't mean that mine was better or theirs was any less valid. And so I'm going to say that bereavement of a person is of a special category, and there's a different kind of process. We shouldn't be saying it's time you got over it or something like that. Yes, we know we know there comes a point we have to work to a point. You're never going to forget about that person, and that person's no longer in your life. Of course you're not. And there's always going to be a little bit of that pain of loss in there. That's just part of life. And yes, you have to carry on with life. You have to move on. But that's up to you to work through that process. And to say I wasn't going to focus on it, I'm saying quite a lot about it. And I haven't got much time to say now about other things. But loss in general, there is a point where we have to not forget about the loss, but to shift our focus to what we have in our lives now, the two upstanding cups here. We release what and let go of what has gone from our lives, maybe gone, but certainly not forgotten. And a special part of all that, and we learn lessons from it. And we have to look at and focus upon what we have left, and what we can work with, and what we can move forward with to look to the future. It doesn't mean we forget the past. It doesn't mean forgetting about the things we've lost or the people that we've lost. I'm not saying through bereavement, but maybe of just no longer part of our lives. They're still around somewhere, living and doing their own thing, but maybe they're not part of our journey anymore, and that's okay. But it may have hurt to say goodbye to them. Maybe we didn't have a complete. We didn't have a say in them going. They made the decision, or something happened, and that can be a hurtful thing. But sometimes we have to not forget it, but we have to look at the things we do have now and move on. And other things will come in, not to replace, but the space is there for other things to come in. It's never going to be a substitute or a replacement from what we've lost, but it's just something new that comes into our lives that we can give our attention to and make a connection to. So, yes, by all means, work through any sense of loss that you have. That's what we should do. But don't dwell on it forever. Don't live there in the past. Remember it fondly where we can. Learn lessons where we can. But just pick ourselves up and focus on the present and what we have now and walk towards the future. And I think that's what this card is saying to us. Okay, very quickly. The Oracle card is Healer. And I'm not going to read the bottom bit because I think this is that's where the healing takes place. Maybe we need to move the transition period from moving from the loss to taking hold of our present. There's a process of healing that needs to take place to get us there. We can make the decision that that's what we want to do, but the actual process of getting there can take some time, and it is a process of healing that can happen. As I say, not that we totally forget, but that but we get to a position where we can focus on the moment we're in and move on. So that's what these cards are talking about today. Okay, so that's today's message. I'll be back tomorrow with day 20. Until then, thank you for listening. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.